Hello everybody, One Piece chapter 1055 is out, so here are my thoughts. The title of the chapter is New Age, but there are also some people who are translating it as New Genesis. I'm not completely sure which translation is correct, but the reason why some people are translating it as New Genesis is so it matches up with the song from Film Red. Now before I get into the chapter itself, there's this little extra that Oda drew which shows the moment when Uta wrote the song New Genesis. It starts out with Uta laying down and it seems like she's experiencing some type of nightmare. There's a frown on her face and there's text that describes pirates invading some sort of town and that houses are burning. We then see Uta get jolted awake and she starts scrambling for a pen. So she proceeds to throw a bunch of shit out of her purse and we see this panel where she's like grabbing a musical note. As of this recording, Film Red hasn't come out yet, but this seems to indicate that Uta has some sort of music related devil fruit. I already thought that she had some sort of music related power already, but this just kind of goes to further support that. Anyways, we see a musical score written in front of Uta and at the top of it reads New Genesis. I'm not sure if she painted all of this on the wall or if it was her devil fruit that did it, but regardless, it's a pretty cool looking panel. And the final panel is just Uta going, it's done, my magnum opus. So yeah, that's that. Now on to the chapter itself. Similar to the last chapter, it shows some more images of the party going on at Wano. Everyone appears to be having a fantastic time. We see Nami enjoying some cotton candy, Otama has a candy apple, and Zeus is just kinda hanging out. But then we get launched right back into the fight with Green Bull. Momonosuke's still telling Yamato not to join in on the fight and he's really getting fucked up. So Yamato's just kinda standing there while Green Bull's in his tree form beating the ever-loving shit out of Momonosuke. And obviously I don't fault Yamato for this, I just thought it was pretty comical. Anyways, Raizo comes to the rescue and uses Nimpo's scroll jutsu to launch a fuck ton of fire at Green Bull. Of course, fire seems like an obvious weakness to a giant tree monster, so I'm guessing he just kinda wanted to see what would happen. Green Bull acts like he's scared of this fire attack, but then he makes this weird face and goes, just kidding. That's when we see one of Green Bull's new forms called Fireproof Forest. And then he essentially says, you're up against a Navy Admiral. I know how to defend against an obvious weakness like that. But still, props to Raizo for thinking logically. Unfortunately for Raizo, Green Bull gets one of his branches to stab directly through the center of Raizo's stomach. This is when he does the same thing he did to King and Queen, where he sucks all of the blood out of their body, making them look like a deflated balloon. I don't think that this will kill Raizo, but I'm curious to see how someone would recover from an attack like this. Like, how do you recover from having all of the blood sucked out of your body? I guess that he could get someone to donate him some blood, but that's neither here nor there. So we see the scabbards getting visibly frustrated because all they can seemingly do is just whack down these branches. Kawamatsu's like, no matter how much we cut it, it just keeps growing back, while Nekomamushi's like, is weed whacking really all we can do? I guess they couldn't keep up because right after we see all of the scabbards getting tangled up in his branches. Now onto the Sukiyaki part of the chapter. So it turns out the basement that Sukiyaki was trapped in goes down really fucking far. We see Robin, Sukiyaki, and Law, and they're all just walking further down. Robin says to Law, you did well to sniff us out, and Law's all like, you make it sound like I'm a hyena, which I thought was pretty funny. The reason why Law's there is because he noticed that the two of them were missing, so he just kinda went looking after them. Sukiyaki brings up that he never told Orochi or Kaido about this secret underground passage, but they were still able to find the poneglyph because they had a fishman on their crew. And of course the fishman he's talking about is Jack. Law then asks, how far down does this go? And Sukiyaki says, I'd say it goes down a few hundred of years deep. Once again we see Robin looking very confused because what kind of an answer is that? However, she notices that there's this weird square opening which has light coming out of it. It turns out to be this weird little crawl space, so her and Law go up in there. At the end of this crawl space there's this giant glass block, so Robin and Law look to see what's on the other side of it. And what they end up seeing is Wano, but it's completely submerged in water. There's a bunch of little fishes swimming around and the buildings look very similar to the buildings we've already seen in Wano. And it turns out that this is where the people of Wano lived 800 years ago. And the cool part about it is that the buildings look really well preserved, so it's not actually submerged in seawater. Thankfully Sukiyaki's there to help explain some of the Wano lore. He mentions how Wano was once just a normal island located at the sea level around the base of Mount Fuji. However, at some point in time, presumably the Void Century, there are these giant walls created around Wano. And as a result, the rainwater had nowhere to escape to, so it just continuously rose until it was pouring over the sides of those walls, creating the Wano we know today. Now let me just pause for a second to talk about what I think happened here. So there's a pretty popular theory out there which talks about the four gods from Skypiea. It claims that Luffy is the sun god, Green Bull is the forest god, Dragon is the rain god, and either Imu or Fujitora is the earth god. And it's been said that there's a devil devil fruit based on each of these gods. Now, I'm not entirely sure who has the devil fruit based on the earth god, but I think whoever had it 800 years ago is the person who erected those walls around Wano. And who knows, maybe the person who had the rain god devil fruit caused Wano to flood. Anyways, that's just some speculation I wanted to throw in there. But still, I think all of this stuff regarding the geography of Wano is extremely fascinating. Anyways, the three of them reach the bottom of this long-ass basement, and this is when we finally get to see the road poneglyph located in Wano. So the Straw Hats are now officially one road poneglyph away from being able to reach Laugh-Tale. Then Sukiyaki proceeds to drop even more Wano lore. He brings up if you continue to trek a little bit deeper, then you would eventually find the ancient weapon Pluton. Now Sukiyaki still hasn't actually seen Pluton, but it's great that we now know where Pluton is. Not only that, but we now know that retrieving Pluton would require the removal of the walls that surround Wano. So opening the borders of Wano isn't just some metaphor, it's a literal act that would actually let loose on the ancient weapon Pluton. And the reason why Sukiyaki knows all of this information is because it's been passed down through generations of shogunate rule. Now, as far as what I think the ancient weapon Pluton is, I still have no fucking idea, but I absolutely can't wait to find out what it is. So after that giant lore dump, we get right back to Green Bull's shenanigans. He brings up that if Kaido was still in charge, then he would have never come to Wano. And it almost seems as if Green Bull had some level of respect for Kaido's oppressive regime because the order he imposed deterred others from targeting the country. I think this adds an interesting element to Green Bull's character because it seems like he really values order above all else. And of course, we already knew that about Green Bull, but it seems like he can respect it even if the order is imposed by a pirate. Anyways, at this point, all of the scabbards are tangled up in his branches, including Yamato. The only person who isn't tangled up is Momonosuke. Yamato suggests to call up Luffy and the others to show Green Bull who's boss. However, Momonosuke refuses because he wants to prove that him and the scabbards are capable of defending Wano. It's just a very kind act of Momonosuke because clearly he doesn't want Yamato to have anxiety of Wano getting attacked while at sea. At first, Momonosuke lets out another dragon burp like he did before. However, this time he follows it up with a giant blast breath which goes through the center of Green Bull's body. I also found it interesting that it looked pretty much the exact same as Kaido's blast breaths. And this was definitely intentional because Denjiro says the exact same thing right after. Now this attack looks like it did some damage to Green Bull just based on the face that he made. Momonosuke also seems to be surprised. He's like, holy shit, I actually did it. Then Momonosuke just starts going fucking crazy and goes, be gone, be gone, be gone, and lets off a fuck ton of blast breaths in like every direction. Yamato's like, wow, that's amazing. He's finally managing to control his dragon form, but his aim still leaves much to be desired. Then we see another awesome panel of Momonosuke just setting Green Bull ablaze. But then we see a little plant growing out of the ground and it eventually grows back into another Green Bull. I'm guessing that Momonosuke completely destroyed his tree form, so he just grew out of the ground and became another form. However, I'm still pretty confused on what exactly happened here. But the point is, now Green Bull's in a new form and he's ready to attack Momonosuke once again. However, before he can get any attacks in, there's a huge blast of Conqueror's Haki. This causes Green Bull to start freaking the fuck out. He's like, what the hell, the red-haired pirates are here too? This is when we cut away to Shanks' ship once again. His crewmates are all like, Shanks, don't just use all that Haki without warning. And I'm not sure if Shanks is communicating with Green Bull through Conqueror's Haki or something, but regardless, he says this. I won't call you Marines cowardly or underhanded for this, but wouldn't you agree it's bad form to go after these worn-out saplings when they're exhausted from making pirate history? And we cut over to Green Bull and he's just kind of standing there with his hands up and he looks terrified. This is when we get a couple of flashback panels with young Luffy and whatnot. However, there's this shadowy figure on the left and I've seen a couple of people point out that this could be Uta. Now there's not much you can see in the panel, so it is a bit of a reach, but there are those little loop-de-loop things that she has on her hair. But regardless, it's followed up by this panel of Shanks looking extremely menacing saying, does the new age frighten you that much? And here Shanks is looking angrier than I've ever seen him. It's really a sight to behold. Green Bull is essentially shitting his pants at this point, saying that he's not looking to pick a fight with the red-haired pirates. So Green Bull gets the fuck out of there and Yamato starts cheering for Momonosuke and it's very sweet. Momonosuke is standing there with tears of joy rolling down his scaly dragon face. After that, we get a brief cut back to the party going on at Wano where it's like Brook playing on his guitar, Usopp's cheering, Frankie's having fun, you know, the usual stuff. And of course, Chopper's at the bottom of the panel enjoying some cotton candy. In another panel, we see Sanji, Luffy, Zoro, and Jinbei, and it turns out that they were watching all of this Green Bull shit go down the entire time. They were considering going down there to help them, but they all look relieved that they didn't have to do anything after all. Zoro seems to be pretty pretty impressed with Momonosuke, and Jinbei's all like, that haki was really something, huh? Luffy responds with a huge smile and says, a familiar face just popped into my head. The final panel is Shanks' ship, and it seems to be sailing away from Wano. And that's the chapter. I'm extremely curious to see what happens next, because at this point the possibilities are endless. I mean, the Greenbull situation has been handled and the third road poneglyph has been found, so it seems like there's not too many things that need to be done in Wano before they move on. With that being said, feel free to let me know your thoughts on the chapter. Unsurprisingly, I thought this chapter was fantastic, and I can't wait to learn more about Pluton. But yeah, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have an incredible rest of your day.